have a full-time psychiatric ARNP on full-time work. That's a contractual agreement. Under inmate programs, you'll see a reduction. That's also a contractual agreement that we have with Northern Human Services to provide not only mental health but screenings and assessments, but substance abuse classes. So there's a reduction in that line. There's no other really items I need to bring to your attention, I don't believe.
What's the status on training programs?
What training programs?
For inmates?
The inmates. We have we entered into a contractual agreement with Ed Options. It's a vendor that we put inmates through to get their GED program. The program that we do is the substance abuse program, which I just spoke of through Northern Human Services. And then we have volunteers that come in to do AA meetings, religious groups, and UNA Cooperative Extension is now starting up their parenting program for the inmates. That's starting, I believe, either later this month or early next month.
Yes, Representative Umberger.
I don't know if you can answer this question in public or not, but I wanted to know, you said that you are averaging less than 60 inmates because that's what you're asking for food. And so my question is, are we manned for 131 inmates, or are we manned for some other number of inmates? Because you're asking for an increase of 2 corrections officers, and I'm just, that's what I want to know. You don't have to answer me if you can't, or, you know, it's part of your security thing, but I sure would like you to whisper in my ear sometime.
I can actually answer that.
Oh, good.
The National Institute of Corrections does not recommend a staff-to-inmate ratio when doing your staffing plan. When you do your staffing plan, you look at the various posts in the position in the facility and the various requirements of such posts. So that's how we get to the number of correctional personnel that it takes to effectively run that facility.
So, if I might follow up, so that means we found 2 more posts that need to be manned?
No, it's just that I don't think that the operations are as efficient as they should be, because if I direct one staff member to do multiple functions, there's things lacking in positions that need, like, for example, like day room 1, 2, 3 officer is also responsible for doing med intakes and medication passes. So when that is going on, then checks have to be picked up by somebody else that may or may not be available.
And can you tell me the ratio of, can you tell me the ratio of your inmates that are, I don't know what the right term is, minimum, you know, in that large room?
In which one? The medium? We have 2 very substantial rooms. We have day room 4, which is our medium custody, and then we have the minimum security unit, which is down the far end of the facility.
Okay, so what's your, I guess what I'm asking is, what is the general ratio of your inmates?
Most of our inmates are in pretrial status, so they're in either day rooms 1, 2, 3, or 4. We have a small sentence population, which Will talked about earlier in regards to manpower available. We're typically running at about a 70% pretrial to 30% sentenced, and that's been true for the last 2 years, I believe.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, ratio? Yes. Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, you asked for, and I believe you received a certain amount of money to redirect your monitors inside the control room to a level that was more suitable for your staffing to be watching. Was that taken care of?
Yes, sir.
And that's working well?
Yes.
Is any money left from that?
No. That was, we asked for, I want to say it was 8 to 14,000, and that's what the project cost itself.
Thank you.
I think it was 8 and then 14,000 was for the HVAC cleaning, I believe, which was also completed.
Thank you.
Other questions from the delegation?
No one had a
If
question.
not, let's take a fast look then at the revenues.
No one had a question.
I'm sorry, oh, I didn't see that. The Representative Spencer.
And it may even be more of a question for the commissioners, but while it's on the sheet, I wanted to just ask, the medical insurance plan, is that the same plan for every department? It's with the same
It's
company?
Same company as the nursing home.
Okay,
Sheriff's medical insurance is different.
okay, okay.
They
So
pay less and they get a better plan
okay,
through their union.
gotcha, okay. So is it just the jail and the nursing home that are with with that one company?
The rest of the complex is with that company. Yeah.
Okay, so the whole complex, except for the sheriff's department,
Yep.
is with this company? Okay. Is it,
Am I correct, Representative McConkey? You're on that insurance committee.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The question is, everybody else on the complex, with the exception of the sheriff's department, is on one plan.
That's my understanding, and we've had great meetings and holding costs down, and it looks good going forward also. I'm sorry if that helps.
just wanted to, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to bring up the thought, if this hasn't been expressed before, and Representative McConkey, I wanted you to hear this as well. If there's a way for Carroll to work with Belknap by pooling with the medical insurance, perhaps we could even reduce our rate by a % or so, or pooling with Grafton. I don't know, they may not be using the same company, they may be using the same company, but I just wanted to get that idea out on the table. Thank you.
My idea was even further to pool it, all the counties in the state, go through the New Hampshire Association of Counties and come up with a better policy. That is complicated. We did get the electrical one, even that, not all counties could participate in. So we're looking at that.
Commissioner?
I was at a meeting down at the office of the New Hampshire Association of Counties, and we did speak with all representatives, or all people, I should say, from the various counties about this, and they are looking. But it's not something that is, nothing has been set in stone yet.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative McCarthy.
One other thing, I know we're running late, and this really hasn't anything to do with the budget. I brought it up before. I'd just like to get your input on it, and maybe you can start working on it. I've been talking to members of the House of Representatives from Coos County. They explained to me that they have an antiquated jail that's costing them tens of thousands of dollars to maintain it. They only have a population of 25 prisoners in the jail, and they're very much, I believe, in tune to joining with our jail, moving their 25 prisoners down and closing theirs. And I think that would be a win-win situation for both sides. We already take their female prisoners. They go to the Conway court. It's a 4-hour trip for them. It would be a lot easier from here. So perhaps you could look into that.
Talk about the women.
We actually stopped taking their females representative when we were looking to go to prime care because of the cost. So I had talked to the superintendent up there, and we don't take their females on just an automatic anymore. So we've gone away from that practice. to kind of comment about the way that this facility was designed, it was built and has an infrastructure to have a capacity of about 75, which was the projected population in 2002 when the study was done, to what it was going to be in 2011. We double bunked, which gives us the capacity of 131 people at this point, but depending on what their classification is and how, you know, with the various people they have up there, may have an impact on how we house them down here locally.
Follow up?
Yes, go ahead.
I understand all of that, but if their population is only 25, if we brought them down and they paid us per prisoner per day and shut their place down, I think it would be a win-win situation for both counties. I think it's worth looking into.
I think it is a non-budget issue at this point. The points were well made, but Commissioner Solomon has a point.
Just to follow through, I did follow up on that question, and I followed up with a representative up in Coas County, and he said he was not interested in it at all.
When I talked to several, they said they were.
Representative Tregenza.
When you say, Commissioner, when you said you followed up with a representative, did you mean a representative from the county complex or a representative who's in the state legislature?
It was in the state legislature.
Just to keep it on the burner, can we have somebody contact the appropriate person in COAS or persons and get some feedback back to the delegation at some point? That was Sue Collins. Okay. Other items on, anything on expenditures? Excuse me, on receipts? The revenue budget. Go ahead, Representative.
Just like my perennial question on the electronic monitoring. How many people do we have out on electronic monitoring?
Presently, we have 4 out now.
4.
Yes.
Thank you. Seems long.
Okay. Representative Baldwin.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question, Jason. I'm just going to ask the question I ask every year, I suppose, and it
I have the answer for you, sir. $99.63 for a total cost of $36,364. We took in 935 inmates and have bed days of 28,361.
Okay, so your per year cost was 36,000 and something?
364, yes, sir.
Okay. And what was it last year?
Got me stumped now. I don't have that figure for you.
Oh.
Off the top of my head, I want to say it was $120 a day. But we took in more inmates last year than we did in 2010.
Is that cost per day, per inmate?
Basically the cost per day was, in my recollections, was in the 120 something, like
Yeah.
127 seems to ring clear, I don't know why, but.
I believe, yeah, it's between 100 and, I'll confirm that, it's between 120 and 130, so.
Okay.
And then last year for bed days, I want to say we were around 21,000 total, but I could be wrong. I can go back and look at the annual report.
Okay, so even using our low recollection figure of 120, that's $43,800. So previous budgets have two. So for 2010, we were looking at $43,000 per prisoner per year to house them. And this year we are, in this most present, 2011, we actually reduced that to $36,364
Yes.
per prisoner. Well, that's.
I think it's, again, because it's the number of people that we handle over the course of a year, which will drive that number. In 2006, 2007, we were at $87 and $89 a day.
Well, we're going to drive it up.
Because of our population, we handled over 1,000 inmates that year, in those 2 years combined, actually.
Okay, well, I just want to commend you for bringing that cost down, because it certainly is a cost that, you know, we can analytically get our hands around to understand what it's costing us to house the prisoners on an annual basis. But as a follow-up, one thing that you mentioned, and also what the former superintendent, Dennis Robinson, brought up to me is that the costs of running the jail are essentially, not in totality, but are largely fixed. You're going to need the same number of CEOs if you have 50 inmates or if you have 80 inmates. It takes the same amount of salaries. Obviously, the medicines and things that, you know, are going to fluctuate depending on how many people are in there. And that's something that he presented to the delegation, and I think you were also in attendance actually at that meeting at that time as the assistant. But to Representative McCarthy's mention of bringing in additional inmates from another county, okay, should substantially help us with our per inmate cost. And that for the two counties to get together and for them to actually pay us as opposed to taking it on, you know, a trade basis, but for them to actually reimburse us for the reasonable cost of housing those inmates should help both counties, and it really should be looked into quite critically, I believe, because you know, because we've seen right here as evidence that the number of prison inmate days directly contributes to how much it costs us to house each prisoner. So getting us to that 75 population is critical in bringing that total number down. And so if we add 20, we're going to be around 80 average. Did you say 65? I couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah, our average daily population in the facility has been averaging between 50 and 60 inmates a day.
Right, so if we added 20, we would be around 70 to 80, putting us at the optimal or the most efficient amount of population as was designed for the facility. So that may be really in the best interest of both counties to try to look into this, because it appears that our facility has been built to house that many people.
Representative, I think that's what we asked them to do, and the commissioners will speak directly with people who are knowledgeable about it, have some control over it, and COAS or others, in fact, make it back, should get back to us. So we would look for your input sometime in the future, shortly in the future.
Yeah, near future.
Yes, Representative McCarthy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one other thing I would like the commissioners, I think we talked about it before. I know for a fact from the documents that the superintendent has given me as a member of the jail subcommittee that over 800 meals a month are given free to the employees at the jail, and probably 3 times that many to employees at the nursing home. That's a big expense, and I think we should look into some way of, you know, either having them brown bag it or maybe pay the expense of the meal, which is what, $3.25 according to the figures that I got. But we're giving an awful lot away, you know, 800 meals a month at the jail and probably 1,000 or 1,500 or more at the nursing home. That's a big expense that we're just giving away. I think we should look into that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Solomon, did you raise the point that you wanted to before? Or did I miss you? You did. Okay, fine. Thank you. All right. Then let us go then to the revenue side of the budget, and I guess we need to look at increasing inmates, population, and all of that. But let us see what we do have to talk about here.
We certainly don't need more crime. Thank you.
No, we don't need more crime. We're just...
The increase in the income, Mr. Chair, you'll see went from 12,000 to 20,000. That's because we do all that is the electronic monitoring fees, work release fees, we charge the inmates med copay. The pretrial release, that has a fee associated with that, so you'll see that's an increase. And then the telephone increase, that's just amortized over what we had received year to date through the telephone commission.
Okay. And there are very few items. Does anybody have any questions about these?
We assume that the subcommittee will do their job.
Say again?
I said, we'll assume the subcommittee will do their job and get back to us.
If there are no other questions, let's close the hearing on the jail and House of Corrections budget. Thank you very much, Jason. We will go ahead and convene the budget. We're about an hour, a little over an hour late, but I'd like to convene the budget hearing on the sheriff and dispatch, noting, however, that I am going to recess that probably prior to 12:30 to deal with issues on the old nursing home, but I'd like to get started and keep us moving, so. We are ready to look at the sheriff's budget, and beginning on
Page 8.
page 8. And Sheriff Conley, we're ready to...
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here with the delegation. More so because of the office that I represent, the men and women in the Sheriff's Office. I just want to tell you they do an outstanding job. We brought before you a very austere budget, consistent with the guidance that has been put out. We've met with the subcommittee 4 times since October. And the last one was September 23rd. I am accompanied by Lieutenant Santuccio. He has some handouts for Representative Umberger. I thought we would get those to you only because, you know, we are still in the middle of the subcommittee. And it's been a pretty dynamic year. We're, leaning forward for 2012. We deliver professional law enforcement services throughout the county, from Chatham to Wakefield and from Effingham to Bolingbrook. And we want to continue that. We've brought transformational change in the last 3 years, and we're going to keep leaning forward. I work situations very hard. But I want to point out to the delegation and anybody that I expect, especially the sworn officers, the expectation is that they all perform the highest traditions of the law enforcement profession. And those of you that have been in the military or the police service, that means inserting themselves between us and people that will do us harm. That's my job. I take it very seriously, and it's a privilege here to talk budgets. So thank you very much, Mr. Flood. And rather than rehashing the budget, because we've done that so much with the subcommittee, I didn't prepare numbers. I can answer questions, but I would really like to be able to, go back and then come back with detailed answers if they are out there, because we are in the middle of a subcommittee process.
Okay, thank you. And Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the sheriff for being here. I think subcommittees work very hard under the leadership of Representative Umberger, and I think we've thrashed through an awful lot of this, and I'm wondering if it might be appropriate to hear from the subcommittee at this time. Recommendations, if that would be to the representative's pleasure.
Go ahead, Representative Umberger.
Yeah, just, let me start with one thing that the Sheriff's Department overlooked, unfortunately, and that was the increase in the retirement for Group 2. And so he has since provided that number to us, and for the sheriff retirement, it's $134,840, and for the dispatch, it was $39,080.
Could you repeat that? Retirement expense, the sheriff?
$134,840
And dispatch?
was $39,080. I think that's the right number. So there will be a slight increase. You know, that increase will have to occur in the budget. Now, whether it's an increase or we move things around in some other ways, that will be we'll have to see how that goes. But we have had 2 subcommittee meetings, and I think that we have gotten most of the issues at least discussed, although maybe not settled at this point, but certainly discussed. And about the only open issue, I think, or something that hasn't truly been solved at this point, is the prosecutor. And I believe that sheriff is going to be working on that. So other than that, I think that probably with 1.5 more meetings of the sheriff, we will finish that up and have a recommendation back to the back to the delegation. And if any,
Excuse me, that will be in time for the consideration of the entire budget, is it?
whenever you know, whenever you are here to do that, we'll be more than ready. And there are minutes out there if anybody wants to look at them, describing what we have discussed. And you know, subcommittees prepare minutes. They're not as detailed as some of the other things, but at least it gives a general idea of what's there. So right now we don't have an additional subcommittee meeting scheduled, but we will shortly.
Representative Babson.
Representative Umberger, did I misunderstand you? I thought you said the retirement expense for the dispatch was $39,000.
39 and change.
We're down 3,000.
That's
Yes.
a reduction then.
That's correct.
I thought it was going up.
No.
Oh.
Group 1 employee costs, retirement costs actually went down. Group 2 employee costs actually went up.
Yep.
Okay, and so I assumed that when we're all looking at the various areas, that we make sure that that is reflected in the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. And it was, you know, I did not realize, if I could, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not realize that each department head figures their own retirement costs. I thought that the accounting office did that for the entire complex, but they do not. Each department head figures out their own retirement costs. And so when I asked the question on the sheriff, it was because the retirement costs were the same from last year to this year. And I knew that at least Group 2 had gone up, and I wasn't exactly sure why that was. And that was when I found out that each department does their own retirement cost. And it was something that was simply overlooked, and the sheriff was quite happy that I asked that particular question. So I don't know if anybody else has that situation or not, but I felt that it was important.
Representative McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to reiterate again then, you know, the Sheriff's Department went from 119 to 134. That's a 13% increase. whereas the jail went up 40%. So I'm still lost.
That's why I made the comment.